Hello everybody on YouTube. This is a mid-afternoon video trying to fight any glares, got every curtain pulled, every shade drawn, trying to fight any glare so we can do this as clear as possible. This is going to be my update on the Pond Armor application that I put on the 540 gallon tank, the 700 gallon system. The Giant, we're calling it. This is what I use. This is Pond Shield, the Pond Armor. This is a can of one of two that were black, and I used two that were tan. I wanted to do something a little bit different. A painter, I'm decent. Expert, I'm not. So you'll see what I'm talking about when I display what we did with it. There's a process to it. It's simple. You follow directions and that process is really simple. I use this on the bottom of the 360 gallon. It's been running about 7 months now. It's fantastic. I know several / many people that have used it. Joey, the king of DIY, Alex G, just to name a couple. There's many that you stroll around and you look. I mean, there's other items to use, I'm sure, but when it comes to non-toxic, fish-friendly, you don't need special paints to overdo what you're using. Fiberglass was used merely for the seams. You don't need the fiberglass. I didn't need it to be a sealer. It was just to add a little strength in the couple seams that I had that were questionable to me. I haven't structurally reinforced them completely yet. I've got 2x8s, 2x6s, and 2x4s yet that I'm going to go in with. And I'm going to do a perimeter round like I did in the other tank. Do all the hot points are going to be hit with extra strength. The tank itself was 3/4 inch birch, furniture grade. I did 2 layers throughout most of it. I overlapped every seam with another board, so no seams were cut on the same exact area. If I had 8 foot and 4 foot, then I had 4 foot and 8 foot, so each one was overlapped. I did that on the bottom, the back, and the front. And then on the sides, I got double thickness. And I had the corners met where I wood putty, sanded it down, and those are the ones that got fiberglass. So what I did was 1 coat complete, let it cure, light sanding, saturated the seams, put down the fiberglass mat, strips, saturated it further, then I rolled a whole nother coating. Then I went ahead and let it sit for 24 hours, sanded it lightly again with 60 grit. Then I went ahead and put another coat, and before it was completely cured, between 2 and 3 hours it's just tacky, you can go ahead and hit it with another coat. So I did that. So I got a heavy coat, saturated, light coat, and 2 more heavy coats on all the black and the tan. And I did them at different points, and you'll see that's the only way I could get black and tan, kind of not thinking about the drink, the black and tan drink, just thinking about the black and tan epoxy. It took a little work. The cutting wasn't perfect, but I'm happy with it because the tan for the bottom will make it so the sand gets moved by my Mbuna, which I love to move sand. There'll be tan underneath. There won't be a clear glass like I've had in previous tanks, and there won't be black. I like the white in the 360, but it was still a little bit obvious. I think the tan and the sand are going to be almost the exact same color, and something I wanted to do. So here, let's stand up and walk over to it. Here is the Giant. If y'all remember, I did the Euro braces out of 2x4 as well. What I did is I went up in all the cracks with the Pond Armor up into the cracks up there, because the rest I'm going to do, rather than use the Pond Armor on that, I've got a gallon of Kilz white paint. I want the reflection of the white paint, and the Kilz paint is relatively inexpensive, so I'm going to put probably 3 coats of that on all the lumber to do with the Euro braces, all up and throughout. And there's going to be another center brace here, so there's going to be a total of 2 ends and 3 braces along the middle. This will be very heavily braced. And I did my touch-up this morning on the Pond Armor. Anything that I thought was even remotely questionable, I just went ahead and just touched it with the last little bit I had in the can. Don't do it with just paint. If you just do paint, it'll just run over like crazy. That paint is amazing. So what you want to do is save a little bit of the hardener. Just a little bit, and then just like, it's 2 parts paint, 1 part hardener. So if you save just maybe half an ounce or an ounce of hardener, then you just do twice that much. An ounce or 2 ounces of paint. And that'll be a good enough mix. You don't need any of the denatured alcohol in your touch-up. And I went ahead and I drilled. It's a 2.5 inch hole for a 1.5 inch bulkhead. I did it, rather than go on the bottom, I went midway up. I think there'd be less pressure. I've got that totally coated as well. But it's easy access, very easy access. And then I'm going to have my 90 coming out of there from the bulkhead and come up to my Stockman and be right here on both ends. My other Stockman will be right here. The back seam and the bottom seam were machine cut wood that fit perfectly. I glued and screwed. Every 1.5 inches is a screw along with the good wood glue. I put all the heavy pond armor on it. And I think just for the sake of it, because I've seen Butch do it on his pond armor videos, the tutorial, I'm going to use a silicone on those seams. I don't know if it's really obvious or not. I mean, it will be in some places. I fiberglassed that seam, and I fiberglassed this front seam. These are odd angles. I wood filled and cut the angles in the wood as good as possible, but I don't want any errors there. And then if you look, you can see how I cut in the tan on the whole bottom. The bottom is extremely thick because I use the 2 kits on this. And for a good seal, he recommends 10 mils, and I know I'm probably closer to 25 mils on the bottom. Just by looking at the fiberglass mat that's in there, that's very well hidden. You can tell how thick it is. Now we're going to go back down this end. And that's where I fiberglassed the back seam. I put, you couldn't even really tell there was a seam there before I started. It was so tight and it was so well put together. But I wanted the fiberglass just for the strength, not for the water sealing, but for the strength. Because it is 2 separate pieces, regardless of being screwed, glued, supported, structural framing, and everything else. And then down this end is another seam that I use the fiberglass on. And on this front end is another seam that I use the fiberglass on. But this is how the Giant looks today. If I was like a 2 foot tall dude, this would be a perfect bowling alley. I don't know, I just thought that was funny, so I had to say it. Then on the back side, you can see where the holes are. I brought the pond armor right out so no moisture could ever get into the wood. It's on both sides. There's going to be 3 2x8s down the back of this, all the way to the floor, attached to the stand, pressing against the tank. There's going to be a 2x6 on this corner, 2x4, 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 2x6, 2x8 in the center, and the same thing wrapping around the other side, floor to ceiling, or floor to top of the tank, all the way. I'm going to have 2 75-gallon sumps, 1 per side. Each has its own 1,800 gallon per hour return filter, or return pump rather. I got the floor to build yet. I got all the structures underneath done. But once the tanks are in there, the sumps are in there, I'm going to put 1 more support brace in between this one and the center on both sides. It does not need it. Basically, anything I'm doing from this point on I think is extra. But this is altogether going to be almost 700 gallons of water in my house. And if there was anything to fail on this, I would be handed more than papers from the War Department. My wife is very forgiving. She's an awesome gal, but this wouldn't fly. This would be definitely a lead balloon if anything was to go awry. So, all right, everybody. I wanted to share you this long-winded video. Show everything that I've done. It's open to questions. Any questions? Any ideas? That's what this is about. YouTube is about sharing and learning and helping, and it's a good time. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope I answered any questions, and I'll answer any more. Later.